The Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
All right, brothers and sisters, we're back. Hour 2 on WVON 1690, The Talk of Chicago. You're listening to Straight Words with your host, Brother Naba'a Richard Muhammad, Brother James G. Muhammad. I'm Brother BJ, and we want you to go to our website, straightwords.com. You can find out how to support our show, find out all about us if this is your first time tuning in. We've been on the air for about a year and some months, and we're going strong, brothers and sisters, into 2025 with your support. We really appreciate it. So all the information on how to support us is on the website, straightwords.com. And Brother Naba''s been writing a lot of articles, Brother James G. He's been writing like crazy.
Yes, sir.
So you can
been going.
some of this original content, some of his thoughts on what's happening in Black America. You can read it at straightwords.com. All right. Y'all brothers and sisters, jump on the phone line. We hyped tonight. We ready to talk to you. 773-591-1690, 773-591-1690. You can join our conversation as we get into our next topic. I think you said somebody was on the line too, Brother Naba'a, Brother James.
Okay, let's bring them in. Whoever's on the line, let's bring them in.
I think that Brother Barney was on too.
Oh, Brother Barney. Oh, I saw like a Brother Barney.
Salam alaikum, family.
Alaikum salam, sir.
Man, we thank Allah for you, brother, and thank Allah for the show. Just every now and then when I hear something like P. Diddy and others, R. Kelly's, I always have to remember before we start throwing the rocks at them, as Brother Naba'a was saying earlier. We got to remember that Allah came to defend the black man of America.
Good.
On their forehead, you see stamp, made in America. Quran blesses those who Allah has their faults. I believe Victor Hugo was that said, if the soul is left in darkness, sin will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but he who causes the darkness. So we're not only looking at our brother P. Diddy, but we're looking at, you have to understand how many people that went to that house, that it was videotaped, that had engaged in all kind of dealings with him. Some innocent that's going to be drawn into this. And so we now have to rally our community behind it, knowing that we were those hit in the head and carried on this westerly course. And so we have to now begin to understand that P. Diddy is just a reflection of what the slave master has been doing to us, that he was doing. And if you do it, he know you're doing it because he did it. He taught you how to do it.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's some crime that sometimes, I think one time the minister, was something that happened, and we was in the hospital with our brother. And brother said, well, we may have to forgive him. He said, yeah, if you do it, if he apologizes and atones in time. And
that's right, brother. Brother Barney, I'm going to thank you, and we're going to let you go. I just want to say, brothers and sisters, look, we are in the day of decision, man.
Right.
No matter who you are, and no matter where you stand in the white man's world, make a decision.
Right.
Brother Muhammad got to make a decision. Brother Naba'a got to make a decision. All of us, man. And this message that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been in the world almost 100 years. The minister has been teaching, 70-something years? And we are every week trying to bear witness and present light, life, and power. So as Brother BJ said earlier, man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes too, the intense regret. Would that I have taken away with the messenger. And I don't think that means just departing with him, which I think it does mean that. But it means, would that I have accepted the one that God sent to save me, man. The white man can't save you.
That's right.
He can't save himself. Don't you see him talking about the fall of his own world? Don't you see? Or you waiting till the Holy Quran warns us? Don't wait till the final judgment. Heed the call, y'all. It's easy to tell that a black man's heaven is a white man's hell. So that's where we at.
A white man's heaven is a black man's hell.
White man's heaven is a black man's hell. Sorry, what did I say?
You reversed it.
Oh, no. It's easy to tell that a white man's heaven is a black man's hell. So,
you need to play that song one of these days, Brother Naba'a.
Hey, we can find that. Hey, you think if you can find that? We can play it tonight. I know.
No, I'm just going to. Oh, no, go ahead and say what you said. I was going to just tell you. I was
going to say, can you find something to send to Brother Deontay, and we can play that, man.
Right there.
And we're gonna play the whole thing. We ain't playing 30 seconds.
Yeah. Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But we got Brother Cam Howard holding. But Brother Cam, hold on a second. All right, we're going to do it this way real quick. Cliff, we're going to get you in quickly. Then I'm going to introduce Brother Cam. But before he speaks, we're going to play a little clip. But I want to give Brother Cam as much time. Because what we're going to talk about, I think is very important. But Cliff, come on in, baby. What's up?
That's how I'm looking, brothers. I'll get right to the point. And listen, first of all, the Cash App. But I made my little contribution, and so to your Cash App. Right. That's cool. Am I good with that?
Always do, Cliff. You real cool, yes, man.
All praises to Allah, without a doubt. But listen, and I'll get to this briefly. I always deal and talk about the issue of, and we do, even WVON and all the black media. We talk about white racism, right? And how it negatively impacts us, but benefits white people. But then some of us are a little confused because we talk about black racism, which really doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The police officers, down at Memphis, and brothers, and please distinguish between racism and self-hatred, because what we have and this Brother R talks about this a whole lot. What we have in our community is black hatred. So it's not racism, but black hatred. But before we can deal with white racism, external racism, right? How do we deal with black love? And this is what I get frustrated with, or a little disappointed, and I'm almost done, with Art, because I think he criticized, well, I shouldn't do this, but he's done this. But for some reason, he has a disappointment with the Nation of Islam when you guys speak of white racism. But it exists. And I think the white racism, correct me if I'm wrong, is the reason why we have this self-hatred. And so if we could just deal with that, in terms of, I think, focusing on, and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he deals with that. And so the community and our people have to come to him, even though he still reaches out to us. But if we're not embracing and accepting the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what else can we do? And so I just want to share that with you, brothers. Maybe you can speak on it if necessary. But to Brother Art, I think the nation is the only one that has the truth for our people between eating to live, in terms of how to live, what's going on, the vaccine specifically, where the black churches told us to take the vaccine. Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us to refrain from it. So I'll just digress. I'll end with that. And so much respect to the nation and you, brothers. Keep speaking truth because we need it. It's up to us to take it or embrace it or to leave it. And it's going to be to the detriment of our existence. Thank you, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Cliff. Thank you. Do we have another call or can we go to the next part of the program? That's it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Brothers and sisters, thank you for holding. Brother Cam, thank you for holding as well. This, brothers and sisters, I think is critical. This subject we're going to take up now, which is the trial of a group of activists that were referred to as the Uhuru 3. These were activists that the federal government charged in a major case, and I want us to pay attention now. They were charged with acting as Russian agents. They went to trial. The government failed to prove its case on the major charge, which was acting as foreign agents for Russia. they were acquitted. They were found guilty on a conspiracy to be agents charge. So that's kind of confusing, right? It's kind of confusing. So the attorney said it was a split verdict. But what I want to do, I want to play. This is the attorney, our brother, who was the black attorney, and they really did a marvelous job. And he, in his clip, it's about 6 minutes, right? He basically lays out this case, right? He basically lays out this case. So what you are about to hear, we can cue it up. We're about to hear from attorney Montaki Akbar, who really gets to the heart of this case. So let's play that thing, Cam. We're going to bring you in to take us further, talking about this case, why it's so important. We're ready? We can go with the clip.
Like, this is the type of case that I went to law school for. And that's the passion that you saw for the last week and a half. Because I believe in this case from day one. I believe in this movement. And what it really took for me was when we showed the video of the Impedum tour, the African Charged Genocide tour, with those sisters sitting around in a circle talking. Yeah. And the sister from Chicago had no idea who African People's Socialist Party was, had no idea who Impedum was. And at the end of the conversation, she was just so excited about having the conversation about this organization being there in Chicago, about confronting the United Nations, about genocide. And we got to look at the context of when this was going on. Like, this was in the middle of black men dying almost every day at the hands of police. And this was like the peak, it was peaking of this social revolution of people really realizing we've always known that was here. Like, this organization always known that we've been attacked, from, not only within, but from without. Yeah. And so this petition, this encampment, she was excited about it in the midst of all this evil that was going on around in our communities. Yeah. And she saw hope just by these sisters being there from this tour. And when I looked over at the chairman after that video went off, he was teared up. He was wiping away those tears because I think he saw what this movement was all about just in that 10-minute conversation with those sisters. And he also saw what this government was trying to do to the movement just from that conversation. And my father is 80 years old. And so when I looked over at the chairman, and my father's been doing this work as well. And so when I looked over at the chairman, I saw my father. I literally did. And very rarely have I seen my father cry. But I have. And I would not have ever imagined seeing the chairman shed a tear because he's such a warrior. And warriors rarely shed tears. But that was what I needed. That's what I needed to see, because it was the passion that he had for this organization and what this organization means. And it was the reality that they were trying to take this away from him. They were trying to take away the ability for us to speak for ourselves, the ability for us to get in the van and go to Chicago, go to New York, go to D.C., go to Jackson, Mississippi, and speak about the genocide of black men, and to speak out about it and to fight against it as one voice. And that's what this was about. And so when I got up in the closing argument, the vision of the chairman wiping away those tears, the vision of a warrior, a revolutionary, a general, wiping away those tears in the reality of what was going on, I knew we couldn't walk out of there with the world thinking that we don't have a voice for ourselves, that we don't have the ability to speak for ourselves, that somebody else from Russia, Asia, wherever it is, Eurasia, or wherever it is going to dictate and tell us what we can fight. In the midst of all of that, it was no way that we could walk away with anybody thinking that. And that's what the fight was about. And so I applaud you all too, because it meant a lot for that jury to look out and see that this is not three individuals fighting for their freedom. This was three members of an army, three soldiers with their lieutenant, with their chief. This was a tribe. This was a village that looked like what the world looks like. Exactly. And that was important. That looked like what that jury looked like. And that was important. And so we answered the question of who we are. We answered the question of who we are about, what we are about. And when we were able to say, and I thought it was important to start the conversation with Uhuru, I thought it was important to say that because that is who we are. We're not running from that. We're not running from a Swahili word. We're not running from that we're about freedom. We're not running from the work that we're doing. I thought it was important to start with that. And I thought it was important to end with the work that we do. So we showed that video at the end of it. And we not only showed the video from the end of it, we pointed out the fact that we build basketball courts in the middle of a neighborhood that was dilapidated for years when we talk about benign neglect. We talked about the doula workshops. We talked about the restaurants. We talked about the furniture stores. We talked about the gym. We talked about giving food to people who can't afford to have food. We talked about all the work that we're doing because this is what we do. And nobody tells us to do it. We have the voice to say it on our own. And so I believe you with an African proverb, and it says when two elephants are fighting, the grass is the only thing that's damaged in the middle of it. The two elephants that are fighting are America and Russia. And they tried to make us the grass and damage us in the middle of the fight that they had going on. But like the grass that grows right here, like the grass that grows wherever the African People's Socialist Party have shown up, you can't trample on it. When they showed up in St. Petersburg 50 years ago, it grew greener with the Aquaba Hall. It grew greener with the work that you all been doing. When we showed up in St. Louis, the grass grew greener with all the work with the release of the people that's been in jail and they get released and they have stuff to do with the restaurant, with the shops. It's grown greener. So even with this fight that we've been caught up in, we will continue to grow greener, and we will continue to win. So Uhuru means freedom, and we're free.
Listening. WVON 1690 to talk to Chicago, brothers and sisters. Straightwords.com. You just heard some information that is definitely germane to our survival as a people. We got Brother Cam Howard, who's going to make some statements off the interview with the attorney for the brothers and sisters from the Uhuru organization. So, Brother Cam, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, let me get in real quick, Brother BJ.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
The voice that you heard was the attorney, Montaki Akbar. So there was a major federal case filed last year where the feds saying that Russia had recruited, funded, and directed them to act as unregistered illegal agents of the Russian government and to sow discord in America and spread pro-Russian propaganda. That was the major charge. That was the charge they were acquitted on. Now, last year, when the Justice Department initiated this prosecution, they broke into broadcasts on CNN and other places and went all out with this. So the Justice Department charged, you heard the brother referring to chairman, that's Omali Yeshitela of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru Movement, white allies Penny Hess and Jesse Nevel. Those three are known as the Uhuru Three. And another brother out of Atlanta, Augustus C. Romain Jr. of the Black Hammer Movement, was also accused, and he was acquitted on that major charge. Brother Cam Howard, come on in and let's talk about this.
Hey, Brother Richard. It's a pleasure to be on. And I was actually at the Quabba Hall when Attorney Mutaki, is how you pronounce his name, Mutaki Akbar, made that statement. And I was at the trial, the opening day of the trial, which is on a Tuesday, right after the holiday. And I left. I had some things to do back here in Chicago. Then I came back the following week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and the verdict was on Thursday. And I was there for those days. And the clip you played was from the post-trial, post-verdict summation and press conference. And just a little bit about, there were three attorneys. The chairman's attorney was Leonard Good, Ada Griffin, out of, I think she's out of Miami. She's a Florida attorney. Very brilliant white woman, middle-aged white woman, was representing this 80-year-old black man who was looked at as the jury, looked at by the federal government as this black extremist. And then Penny Hess, attorney, was Leonard Goodman out of Chicago, Jewish civil rights attorney, First Amendment rights attorney, constitutional rights attorney. And then Jesse Nevel's attorney was Mutaki Akbar. Jesse Nevels is a middle-aged white male of Jewish background. He had a Muslim attorney. And just the optics of the legal team just disarmed the jury from the state trying to express these were some, extremist anti-American forces that were aligned with Russia. And it was, and one other thing about, and that was just a beautiful thing to see in the courtroom, how the defense attorneys calmed the jury, and the jury was really sympathetic to all of the expressions that the defense attorneys performed in the courtroom.
And this was an all-white jury, correct? It was an all-white jury?
It was not an all-white jury. It was probably 3 or 4 Hispanics. There was one Asian, and the rest were white men and women. And there was one sister who was selected, but, working class sister, had difficulties getting to the trial on time. And on one day, she was probably about an hour and a half late, and the judge excused her. And Brother Mutaki attempted to get the brother who was a alternate on because there were 6 alternate jurors to replace her, but the judge no, it's against the rules. We had to take the 13th juror. I think that brother was probably number 15. He was number 17. So they had to remove that sister and took the 13th juror and replaced it with another white person. But as Mutaki was saying, the jury, with the exception of not having a black on the jury, just looked like, America. And so that was very important. But Mutaki Akbar, I don't know if you know, and I found out during the trial that this brother is the son of the famed Afrocentric psychologist and student of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Naim Akbar.
Naim Akbar's son?
Naim Akbar's son, brother.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you, man. I found that out.
He ain't tell nobody that.
Brother, how
I ought to go down to Florida and slap him.
I was telling Brother how he grew up,
man.
On his father's teachings, man. Changing images of psychological slavery and all the videos of that brother.
Oh, man, that's a legend, brother.
That is.
Naim Akbar's son was the attorney. And if you don't know who Naim Akbar is, look him up, because you should know by now.
That's exactly right. And so the brother was the chair of the Tallahassee branch of the NAACP, but he became a revolutionary in that courtroom. And as you heard him talking in his post-trial, post-verdict comments, he referred to himself as part of we part of this African liberation struggle. So he was completely converted. He was already brought up into that vein, as a nationalist, of a nationalist. But it was something just to see how he embodied the movement as an attorney.
Yeah,
and it was powerful.
Sam, I wanna move quickly because I want us to get into. I mean, that's great news about Brother Mataki, who's named after our son. Now, hey, Brother BJ, Brother James, we got to get him on the show, man. We're talking to Cam Howard, who is the executive director of Reparations United, worked for many years with Cobra, but a long-time activist in our community. We are talking about the federal government's case, prosecution of activists, accusing them of being Russian agents. And the government lost on the major charge. They were acquitted of being Russian agents. And that's a very heavy charge, brothers and sisters. But Cam, I want to get into, because I see this case as incredibly important, even if a lot of our people haven't heard about it. Because this was a case, brothers and sisters, where Brother Omali Yeshitela, this man has a 50-year history, of working in our community, and he is the chair of the African People's Socialist Party, leader of the Uhuru Movement, and he's also chair of the Black is Back, basically that coalition. But Cam, I see this as an attack on Black people and Black activism and generally activism, but this was no joke to me. This was something that every Black person, every Black organization in America should be looking at. Am I just off my rocker? Am I over the top? Or
no, you're absolutely right. Situation? Not just every Black man in America, but every African on the globe. Just today, it came out that Blinken, Secretary of State Blinken, announced that African Stream, which is a global African platform just disseminating African news, that they are actually Russian agents, which is absolutely false. It's just a continuation. But in that case, as with the Uhuru 3, the United States are trying to censor, and that platform was kicked off of Facebook and Instagram. Censoring any information that portrays the truth about America in relationship to African people. And so they started with the attack on the African People's Socialist Party. They claim we have free speech in this country. They claim we have freedom of association. And as you said, the chairman, African People's Socialist Party, has been saying the exact same thing that they were accused of saying in regards as under the direction and control of the Russian government. They've been saying the same thing for 50 years, never changed, that this country is an imperialist, colonial, parasitic, capitalist nation, that colonial empire that has not only international colonial subjects, but domestic colonial subjects in the form of Black people. That's what they stated. They stated that there was genocide happening all around this country in regards to Black people, and they stated that reparations was due. They've been making that same statement since the 1970s. And in the trial, they brought out the very first copy of the Burning Spear in 1972, which said the exact same thing they said in the encampment tour in 2015 encampment tour, that they said was under the direction and control of the Russian government.
And the Burning Spear is the newspaper for the African People's Socialist Party. Go ahead, Ken.
And that paper is one of the longest, along with the Nation the Final Call, one of the longest movement organs, media organs that we have in this country. And so it'd be consistent. So the government charged the Uhuru 3 with 2 counts. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Ken.
The government charged the Uhuru 3 with 2 counts. One count was conspiracy to act on behalf of the Russian government to sow discord in America. And the other count was acting as agents of the Russian government under the direction and control of the government or officials of the government. And they listed 25 such actions, which primarily were speeches, rallies, the encampment tour, the genocide tour, the genocide petition, writing in their newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. And the jury came back with the verdict that all of those actions, the 25 actions that the government listed, were not at the direction and control of the Russian government. It was at the direction and control of the black masses and the African People's Socialist Party and their policies, because they presented policy statements that showed that this is the policy of the party, and that we're not acting under any foreign elements control. But what they did say is that there was some type of agreement with the anti-globalization movement of Russia, which is a non-government organization, and the African People's Socialist Party. And there was an agreement. There was a solidarity agreement that, we want to invite you to Moscow and tell your story about colonialism in America. And, we will assist you in promoting your story globally. And so that was the agreement.
Now, let me break in real quick, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
The chairman, Brother Yeshitela, he went to Russia in 2015, correct?
Yes, he went twice.
Okay. You know when the second time was? Any idea?
It was also in 2015. I think one was in April, another was in September.
Now, brothers and sisters, I want you to consider this. A man working as a revolutionary for 50 years. He went to Russia as an American free citizen, right? Right? Supposed to be able to travel, right? Twice in 2015. And in 2023, they charged this man with being a federal agent. What's that, 8 years later?
It was a 7-year investigation. A 7-year investigation. And the jury, and what they showed at the jury is that the chairman has been invited all around the world, to Italy, to Belgium, to France, to Ireland, to various countries in South America, various countries on the continent of Africa. Over his 50 years period, he's been invited all around the world. He just left in 2022. He spoke at Oxford. And so this is what he does. People call on him from around the world to talk about and to speak to this whole idea of imperialism, American imperialism, and this neo-colonial empire that America sits at the top of. So this was nothing new for him to be invited to Russia. It was nothing odd, nothing strange, nothing out of the ordinary of the party's actions. And the jury came to that same conclusion. This was nothing new. That was nothing that he was invited. And
obviously, Cam, there was no big exchange of money, because if they would have been, they would have blasted that all over everywhere. I want to try to walk us through this, brothers and sisters, about why it is important.
Right.
As we struggle to get freedom, justice, and equality for our people. The defendants in this case, the activists, said from the beginning, this is an attack on free speech. This is an attack on dissent. They raided the Uhuru Movement headquarters in St. Petersburg, and they raided the home of the chairman in St. Louis. And they came heavily armed. Do you hear me? They used flashbang grenades. Do you hear me? They used battering rams against doors.
They used drones.
Do you hear me?
And they blocked off neighborhoods for blocks. Blocks, people couldn't even come on the block. The whole block was surrounded by FBI agents. They also had a list of 29 FBI agents that were supposed to testify in trial. Approximately 12 testified. At 12 FBI agents, and the lead FBI investigator under cross-examination said that the Justice Department flat out lied about Russian interference in the election of Jesse Nevel and Sister Keely Anand, who was running for council person in St. Petersburg, and Jesse was running as mayor. she said she found no evidence of it, yet the Justice Department in the press release said that there was Russian interference in the elections. In the indictment, it said there was Russian interference in elections. And under cross-examination, she had to say there was no evidence of it, and the Justice Department and the federal prosecutors knew there was no evidence of it. Yet they lied and put this in the indictment. Yet they lied, they put it in a national press release. This is what they did to deny exactly what you stated, the freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly, the freedom to dissent, the freedom to say that this government's actions are wrong. These government actions have been wrong for African people for over 400 years. And that is what this case was about. Now, the press conference is also about, we can say whatever we want to say inside of America, about America, Black people can, pretty much. And in certain spaces, we can say things internationally, like we can go to the United Nations and we can go to these forums and we can say things. But the minute we get a foreign entity to stand with us in saying this, now we are being described as criminal. And this is what they did to W. Du Bois. This is what they did to Mark, that's how most people say sealed both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King's death, because he began to internationalize and get international friends on the side of our issue. And so this is what they didn't want, and this is what they don't want. And so they want to just confine our talk within, the American borders, where we can't get any mainstream media to pick it up, and which means we have no voice. And what the chairman did and what others are doing is looking outside of America to expand our voice globally and get international assistance as we continue to push our issue for reparations and liberation from this colonial empire. So this is what this is all about. As Brother Mutaki said, this was a war between the United States and Russia and the Uhuru 3, because, there was an agreement, which doesn't mean a conspiracy. You can have an agreement between civil society organizations for collaboration and solidarity. It doesn't mean conspiracy to act on behalf of the Russian government. It just means that there was an agreement to forward shared interests.
Cam, look. Well, because I want you to be real clear. Your enemy is telling you you can't decide for yourself you want to be free. You hear me? So if you ain't got a white slave master, you need a Russian slave master. You hear me? But your enemy is telling you white power worldwide, even if you're a black revolutionary. You need a white man in Moscow or a white man in Washington, D.C. to tell you what to do. And this was under the Trump administration and the Biden administration.
Both administrations.
Real clear, man. And so you also mentioned, Cam, historically, Du Bois targeted by this, right? Marcus Garvey targeted by this. We charged genocide was a petition taken to the UN. Was that in the 1940s or the 1950s? I think it was the 1940s, 1952, and that's what Paul Robeson.
And that came out in the trial as well, that they patterned their petition, not after some Russian directive, because there was no Russian directive. They patterned their petition after the Robeson-Patterson genocide petition.
Oh, brothers and sisters, look. I've been very leery, Cam, these last few years about all this talk of Russian independence, Russian interference and Russian bots and trying to influence black people. Man, black people don't need Russians to tell us nothing about suffering in America.
That's exactly right.
We got a case we're going to talk about tonight. Eli. We don't need Russians to tell us nothing about suffering in America.
That's exactly right.
We got a case we're going to talk about tonight. Elijah McClain, innocent little young black brother, died. Do you hear me? put in a chokehold by cops in Aurora, Colorado, walking home from a store because he was kind of anemic and he was an introvert. Somehow or another, what should have been a very simple question ends up with this poor brother in a chokehold. He has a medical emergency. Paramedics come and they shoot him up with this major sedative. He ends up losing his life. A jury rather, convicts a paramedic in this death of this young black man. Gives him 5 years, which ain't nothing. And now another judge has said that that paramedic is out on whatever you call it. I don't know what the hell you call it. Probation, white man take a walk, niggas' lives don't matter, whatever you call it.
That's right.
But look at this. So you mean to tell me without people dying? Sonia Massey right here in Illinois. Huh? Breonna Taylor. Huh? How many names do we have to name? But we need Russians to tell us what to do. So when your government tells you, man, you better pay attention and ask questions. Because I've always been, and you got certain Negro outlets, they say the same thing. Oh, black folks being targeted for disinformation. Really? So you mean to tell me after all our suffering, you can't walk down the street where you live without being afraid of getting hit in the head by the police or hitting the head by your own poor, ignorant people? You're suffering most from poverty. You're being gentrified out of homes. You're being forced out of cities like Chicago. Your women are dying early, trying to give you a baby, black man. But but we don't know enough to try to stand up for ourselves. Man, you better stop listening to these people.
That's absolutely right. So we have been defining our reality for centuries in this country.
Go ahead, man.
Before there was a Russian state, we've been defining our interests. You can go back to David Walker's appeal and
go ahead, man.
Henry Neil Turner, Frederick Douglass, Martin Delaney. We've been defining our reality in this country long before there was a Russian state. And that's what, the chairman said. We only know Russians that tell us about our suffering in this state, in this country. And, and also he said, I wouldn't change one slave master for another slave master. That's the same words you use. He made that statement as well, So, this is really about, will we stand up and continue to fight for ourselves, or will we shrink down and allow the narrative that they're trying to push to take over and silence us? And we're saying we're not going to be silent. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep assembling. We're going to keep protesting. We're going to keep warring against this system. And that's what the jury stated that we had the right to do. And about the split decisions, not only was it a split decision, it's considered legally an inconsistent decision.
Right.
An inconsistent verdict, meaning that it's logically inconsistent to say that they were not guilty of acting as Russian agents and find them guilty of conspiring to act when you have these 25 actions that they were brought up to say that was the proof that they were under the direction and control of the Russian government, and you say they weren't under the direction and control of the Russian government. So it's logically inconsistent. However, the conspiracy charge does carry a 5-year sentence, and from probation to 5 years. Actually, it can be time considered served and no probation. There was probably a 4-hour custody when they were arrested, 4 or 5 hour processing. I don't know how long it was, but that could be considered the length of the sentence. And so right now our goal is to get letters to the judge to express not 1 day of incarceration for the Uhuru 3, not 1 day of imprisonment. The judge seemed very confused as well. Everybody was confused. The lawyers, certainly the jury is confused because the prosecutors intentionally confused them on the conspiracy charge and what makes it a conspiracy. And so the judge seems to be leaning toward trying to figure out, what he's going to do in regards to sentencing, because there are no sentencing guidelines. This is amazing. There's no sentencing guidelines for conspiracy to act on behalf of a foreign government. There's just a maximum sentence, but there's no guidelines to say, well, what's the minimum? Can probation be given or whatever? So the judge heard the case. He understands it's an inconsistent verdict, and so our job is to convince the judge that the Uhuru 3 were doing what we've consistently done in this country, and that is to struggle against the unfair treatment that we received in this country. And that's what they did. They had the right to do it, constitutional right to do it. And so there shouldn't be no punishment for doing so.
Cam, I wanted to ask you, is there some place online where our audience can go to find out, like, what should be written, and any deadlines? Is that posted anywhere?
So all of the actions for this case have been on the website handsoffuhuru.org, 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 handsoffuhuru.org. And the sentencing date is November 25th. However, there's going to be a sentencing hearing prior to that. We don't know when that hearing is. And that's when the judge will hear a testimony on behalf of the Uhuru 3 on why they shouldn't be sentenced to any time in prison. That's our statement. And the prosecutor is going to say why they should be sentenced to 5 years in prison. They should get the max. And the judge will decide. And then on the 25th, he'll render a decision. So
now, when did you say they go back to? Now, is that a public hearing, and that's going to be in Tampa or Tampa Bay, Florida?
That's going to be at the federal courthouse in Tampa, November 25th. We want to pack the courthouse on that day as well. We were packed in the courthouse throughout the trial. There was an overflow room. We were in the largest courtroom in that courthouse on the 17th floor. The entire floor is that particular courtroom and adjoining offices. But we packed that, and there was people also had to sit in the overflow room. And so we definitely want activists to come down to Tampa on November 25th. You have enough time right now to make your plans and set aside that date and come down to Tampa. This was Leonard Goodman, the attorney for Penny Hess, the professor, as the chairman called him, said this is the trial of the century, meaning that this will determine activism for the rest of this century in this country. Because certainly, there's going to be some appeals and there's going to be some more attacks on our right to have legitimate dissent against this country. And if they win, which they didn't win on the big case, but as I stated earlier, they're still targeting other African news agencies and African organizations as well.
Brother,
as we speak.
It's Cam, I thank you first of all for coming on. But the thing that just strikes me, I'm going to say this, brothers and sisters. There were no witnesses. Generally in a case like this, you got an informant or two that comes out on behalf of the government and says, they told me this, they told me that. Nobody. As one of the defense attorneys.
Reward.
How much was the reward again?
And the feds was offering $10 million.
$10 million reward.
Come up with any evidence of conspiracy or any evidence of working under direction and control. $10 million. $10 million. And no one came
Negroes will sell out their mama for a ham sandwich.
For a ham sandwich, that's right.
So you talking
not
about
a single person to come forward.
a $10 million, basically, brothers and sisters, your federal government offered a $10 million bounty on the head of these activists. Why was it so important? See, it's not just the chairman, Yeshitela, and those activists. And I want you to hear what Brother Cam said, trial and century. Why? Because this will impact organizing. And what was the denial objective of the American government to black folks during COINTELPRO? That we not be allowed to organize.
Right.
To organize. But not one person. This was a case all built on speeches, articles, protests. Do you hear me? Now, if they can do that to them, they can build the case on Brother Naba'a right now, based on what I'm saying on the radio.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Let you talk to someone from the African continent or someone from Europe who is not in alignment with American agenda, and they can label you as conspiring and acting under the direction and control of a foreign agent, of a foreign government.
Brothers and sisters, if you got people now that's willing to fight for you, shouldn't you stand with them? Cam, give us that sentencing date again, please, and tell us where it is.
November 25th at the Tampa, Florida federal courthouse in Tampa, Florida. Yeah. And you go to handsoffuhuru.org, handsoffuhuru.org for more information on the case, updates, where you can send your letter, when you need to send your letter. There'll probably be a template letter, but certainly get your organizations. You can send a letter as an individual and as an organization. Declaring the right to speak against this government is our right. The evidence is undeniable that this government has harmed us 400 years, and the evidence is undeniable that there's continued impact on those harms and that reparations is due. And that's all that the chairman and the African People's Socialist Party has been doing and saying and organizing for the last 50 years.
Cam, thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. This is Cam Howard, Executive Director of Reparations United, but a long-time activist. Cam, how can people follow you? And we need to get you back to give us an update on reparations soon. How can people follow you?
So you can go to reparationsunited.org, or you can always contact me at cam@reparationsunited.org. And we're organizing a reparations strategy session, a virtual national reparations strategy session for targeting Biden before the inauguration on getting the Reparations Commission established. So we can talk about that later as well.
Cam, we about to run out of time, but we need to get you on, because reparations kind of came up in this discussion with Kamala Harris today with NABJ, and the question about whether there should be a study, basically a commission that was an executive order, or whether it should be an act of Congress, which hasn't happened, I don't know, 40, damn near 50 years. But Cam, thank you, brother, and we will be in touch, and we want to bring you back, but thank you for giving us all that information.
Thank you, Brother Rich Muhammad.
All right. All right.
Really appreciate it.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. You're listening to Straight Words. WBON AM 1690. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. Come on back after this break. Don't go nowhere. Call us at 773-591-1690. Get in on the conversation.
The talk of Chicago and the voice of the nation is 1690 WBON Berwick.